think there was a lot of factors. I think it was like, the club scene was shifting somewhat. I wasn't quite used to what was going on, and I had, you know, some personal issues too that were not so great. I mean, I was a kid who got involved in the you know, the wonderful world of nightclubs and drinking. The other nasty habits that can often come of that. So I think some of it was running away, and I think some of it was youthful craziness. I guess I was 20-something. I would have been about 25. I think I just thought that there wasn't much there for me at that time musically to play. I had played most of the clubs that I had wanted to.
In D.C., yeah, of course.
I think it perhaps did, you know, maybe burn some bridges with, you know, being a heavy nightclubber at that, which you know, was not a great thing when you're that age, you know, and I'm sure I missed a lot of opportunities. So I came to New York. I thought I'd start over, you know, and I luckily got there at the time. One of the things that attracted me was the punk scene. Maybe drunken notion that maybe the punk scene would embrace blues because it's gnarly too, right? And I thought, okay, you know, it's got this scene happening, and I came up there and stayed with a friend the first, you know, few weeks, and he helped me to find a loft with a crazy jazz drummer who was actually a great player, a nice guy, and another man, and we shared this loft. We each had a huge room. It was a big place. It was right across from the Gem Spa in St. Mark's Place and 2nd Avenue. And I met a lot of people. My world started opening up. There's a spider on that wall too. And I think I'm just gonna, here.
Skillfully done. Good Lord.
Spider in my stew.
Good Lord.
Spider in my stew.
Freaking me out.
So anyway, I moved to New York. I got up here. I had the loft, and I was starting to play. I was playing with free jazz players at first.
Oh wow, improvisational.
Yeah. And I had a gig at a little tiny place called Little Peter, and I was set up because I was doing drums and guitar. It was Mike Mahaffey, a free jazz player, and me. And we were set up somewhere between a phone booth and the bathroom. That was my first New York gig. I came here, I was the other thing. I had this wonderful idea I was going to come and hit the big time. Not so. Anyway, I ended up getting a job at the Strand bookstore. And like, there just wasn't, I didn't know enough people, you know. But I worked at the Strand for years, but during that time I was still playing, you know. And just before I worked at the Strand, I had gotten work at the Lone Star, the original house band of Kinky Friedman and the Texas Jew Boys, and I was the other guitarist along with Sandy Bull, who had cut a lot of great records for Vanguard in the 60s. He was one of my heroes. His album Inventions was a really great guitar album. And we had a guy playing harmonica, Shredney Volmer, and God, who did we have on drums? I think it was Howie Wyeth.
Right.
Howie had played with Bob Dylan in the Rolling Thunder Review, and great player. So we had this band, and Kinky was the leader. And we had our 1 or 2 nights a week, you know. And then John Belushi became friends with him, and really originally under the auspices that he wanted to take some guitar lessons from me. And we hung out a little bit, and we got to be friends for a little while. And
I understand you spent time on the Saturday Night Live set too.
Well, he
back
took me
in the
up to
era.
the set, I believe once or twice. And but I mean, nothing really came of that other than it was an interesting. What his idea was when they first had the skit going was that they wanted to actually present it as a real bona fide thing. And they approached Roomful of Blues, myself, and Curtis Salgado. And I don't think they had an exact thing in mind yet. But they had asked me to do it with Rumful, and I said, well, what do you need me for if you've got Rumful with Duke Robillard? He said, well, I want to have you because you play the Magic Sam stuff. I said, okay, if you think it'll fly, you know. And he said, I want you guys to be our band, you know. And we all believed this. We didn't know. And I think that to a level, to a great degree, I think John was really, really trying to put something together that really was for real, even though they knew their limitations. I don't think he made any definite promises. We felt maybe to a degree that he did, but in hindsight, I really truly don't think he knew as much what was going to happen. And of course, once Atlantic took the interest in them, Atlantic, I'm sure, was mainly the reason. And if I recall, John said that the reason they got those guys was because Atlantic insisted they have real great players. So they had Duck Dunn, they had Steve Cropper, and then they got Matt Murphy. You know, they used the other cats from the Saturday Night Live band. So Chris Elgato and Rumful and me, we, you know, were not needed. So, you know, John, of course, went on to the Animal House thing, and it exploded. And you know, I didn't really see him much after that. I did some radio shows years later. I think that were pre-taped that I did for Dan Aykroyd's blues thing that he had, that radio show that he had for. But it was basically like taped. You know, you basically went in a room, had pre-written questions from another guy, and then Dan, I guess, would air them and put his voice with them. But no, I didn't really see John too much after that point. It was Rumful with me. We did the first official Blues Brothers show.
Sure. And then you played with the Rumful reunion show over the last few years, didn't you do that?
Al Copley.
Al Copley's
show. Was gracious enough to ask me to play with some of the remnants when we, you know, of the original Rumful group.
Sure.
Piccolo.
You did the Rhode Island reunion, right?
Yeah, I did. I've done that a few times, and I guess I sort of filled the spot that Duke had, you know, and we have a ball. I mean, I love doing it. Having that big horn section is always a lot of fun. I've had horns in my own band through the years at different intervals. And then, of course, in '84, I had a band with Wayne Horvitz, Bobby Previtt, Dave Hofstra on bass, Dave Soulson, Phil Johnston, and we started cutting some demos, and we later, you know, were playing and stuff, doing some regular club work, and it came out as an album called Early in the Morning on AOK Records, which was a very limited pressed record, and
quite collectible now.
Yeah, it's pretty collectible if you can find it. It's a really nice record. It still holds up pretty good, but it is a period piece, and it was primarily made as send-outs. You know, back then we used cassettes to send to club. They weren't intended to be released as a record. When it was proposed to me by some really good friends from my hometown, I jumped at the chance, and it did come out on vinyl. But that was the start of my, you know, my recording career, you know, in my 30s, and eventually I went with Blacktop.